Lewis dot structures are very similar to Bohr models, except instead of having all of the electrons, we're just going to focus on the valence electrons. And we're going to use this so we can show the octet rule, where atoms gain or lose electrons to get that full outermost shell. And so you can see here we have the oxygen atom in the middle, and so since oxygen has 6 valence electrons, we put them around oxygen, usually at places of 12, 3, 6, and 9, if you're thinking about them like a clock. And so we're going to show that there's 2 essential spots to fill in electrons. And so you can use the periodic table to help you remember how many valence electrons, or you can use this electron configuration to help you remember that it's going to have 6 valence electrons. Here we have provided the Lewis dot structure for the first 20 elements, and hopefully you can see that in the same group or family, they're going to have the same Lewis dot structure. So that's one thing hopefully you notice, that right here, these are all the same. The second thing you should notice is that when we put them, when we fill that in, we fill them in like I told you earlier, where you have 1 maybe at 3 o'clock, and then you maybe move it over 90 degrees, and then you move it over another 90 degrees, and then finally you move it over so you have 1 at 3, 6, 9, and 12. And you do that before coming back to fill in that second electron. And we do this because it's easy to see now here that, oh, this is missing 1 electron. This is missing 1 electron. This is missing 1 electron. So nitrogen is going to make 3 bonds because it has 3 spots where it's missing electrons. And so that's a lot better than just pairing them up right away. So this is the pattern for drawing the Lewis dot structures. When you're trying to bond molecules together, you first want to start with your Lewis dot structures, and you're going to make this first structure right here. And once you do that and you realize that they're being shared together, you then are going to replace those shared pair of electrons with a simple line. And so it does a couple things. It cleans up your drawing, so now it looks a lot cleaner. And it also shows you that carbon has 4 bonds rather than just 8 electrons around it. And chlorine has 1 bond and 3, each chlorine has 1 bond and 3 lone pairs of electrons. So again, silicon bonding with hydrogen. This is 2 electrons, so now 4, and then 6 and 8. So 4 bonds represent 8 electrons. As you're learning how to draw these molecules correctly, you want to start by figuring out how many total valence electrons you have to play. I think of it like a puzzle. So for water, oxygen is bringing 6 valence electrons, and each of the hydrogens are bringing 1. So that's a total of 8 electrons. Let me draw with the pen. 6 plus 1 plus 1, so 8 electrons. And so a lot of people find it successful to just kind of keep a running tally. So as you're forming a bond, you may be like, okay, now I only have 6. Okay, now I only have 4. Okay, now I have 0 other electrons left. And so once you have 0 electrons left to put into your diagram, you kind of know you did it right. So here's a water molecule. And so let's see if we can find our total of 8 electrons. Well, here's 2, here's another 2, here's 4, or here's 6, and here's 8. So that's a total of 8 electrons. So that's one way to make sure you're doing the problem right. Another way to look at it is, can you circle a complete outer shell for each atom? So hydrogen, if you circle it, it has 2 electrons in that circle. So that's good. And oxygen, if you circle this, it has 2, 4, 6, 8 electrons. So that's oxygen is happy. And then finally you go to the hydrogen and you circle that. Sorry, too much blue. Circle this hydrogen, and that's happy as well. And see, you can see that all 3 atoms satisfied their outer, or the octet rule, even though hydrogen only has 2. And these are the areas that are being bonded. So keeping track of your electrons is really important. Why don't you take a second and count on this right side did we or did we not have the correct amount of electrons? So think about how much each atom is bringing to the table, and then how many electrons do you have to put around your Lewis structures. So take a second, think about it, pause it, and then we'll give you the answer. Well, hopefully you've realized carbon brings 4, and each chlorine brings 7. So if you add that up, you should have 32 electrons around this structure. And if you count that, you do have that, so you did that right. Now, what we're doing right here is to try to give you as many different hints and tips at trying to make these covalent bonds. But really, just like any game, any video game or board game, you have to dive in and do a lot of practice before you really start understanding what these rules are. These rules are more like tools you can put into your tool belt so you remember what to do when you get to the situation. So one of the rules that we like to use is called the honk 1, 2, 3, 4 rule, and this rule helps to remind you how many bonds can each of these atoms form. And hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon are some of the most common atoms you're going to see in a covalent compound. And so honk, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, and 1, 2, 3, 4, that kind of tells you when you make a molecule with carbon, you need to have 4 covalent bonds. And that could be 1 single and 1 triple or 2 double, but somehow you're going to have those 4 covalent bonds. So this chart would be useful if you remember the honk 1, 2, 3, 4 rule. Now, this is chemistry after all, and so you're going to have some exceptions. And it's not like we love these exceptions. We're just teaching you we're trying to teach you what's happening in the world. And so hydrogen is stable with 2 valence electrons. And I think that's one exception that we've all heard enough times that makes sense. But really one of the big ones that you're going to see is the boron. And boron actually has a stable outer shell with actually 6 valence electrons. And so you're going to see 3 bonds formed with boron most of the time. And so this is an exception we want you to know. F3, that's a very common molecule that you would see. So boron and hydrogen are the big exceptions. There are definitely more exceptions. There's some molecules that can have 5 bonds and 6 bonds, but for now, we just want you to be able to know these 2 rules. So at this point, you know some of the rules, you know some of the tips and tricks. Why don't you try to make these 4 compounds the best you can, and then pause it as you're kind of making it, and then come back and rewatch finish watching this, and you'll see some of the answers. And I usually draw it, and I don't have the nicest handwriting, so I just usually do it once, and then I kind of redraw it after I've made it with a little bit nicer. So take some time, do it on your own, and then continue playing this video. So the first the first thing I would say is let's count up how many valence electrons. So hydrogen has 1 and chlorine has 7. So we're going to have a total of 8 valence electrons to make. Then you want to draw hydrogen with its Lewis structure, and you want to draw chlorine with its Lewis structure. Now where you put these electrons really can be moved around. These electrons are not in a stable place anyways, and so you're going to see here that chlorine has one spot where it does not have a pair, and so this hydrogen is going to move over. So I kind of would just maybe even redraw this like this. And then once you have this, you would want to replace it with a bond. Okay, and so you'd want to double check it now and say, okay, hydrogen has 2 electrons around it because it has 1 bond, so that's good. And chlorine has 1 bond, which is 2 electrons, and then 3 lone pairs, so a total of 8. So this is the final structure, and maybe it's good to kind of circle your final structure. So I'm going to just draw the answers for the next couple. So double check your answers with mine and see if you have the same number of bonds, you have the same number of lone pairs. For ICL3, that is an example with an expanded octet, so it actually makes 5 bonds. So if you wanted, you could try to do it with 5 bonds. Let's just save that one for later as we're learning some of the basics. I just wanted to put one to see, who can stretch their brain and see how it might work, but you would need to put 5 bonds for that one. Here you can see the 3 types of bonds that you would be forming, the single, double, and triple. And remember that each bond represents 2 electrons. So here in the hydrogen, that's a sharing of 2. Here between the oxygen, that's a sharing of 4. And then with the nitrogen, you're sharing 6 electrons. And so that's what you'd really you'd want to know. I don't know where that arrow came from, but... And you don't want to forget to draw these other electrons out here. And most of the time you're going to see them drawn as pairs and not individual ones. It just kind of depends on who's doing the work. So now let's practice with double bonds. So if you add up how many valence electrons oxygen has, each one has a total of 6. So that's a total of 12 electrons, to play around with. So you want to first start and have oxygen here, and there's always going to be one bond. So it's kind of smart to put your Lewis structure around and make one bond. Okay, and so you're going to see that it's like, if you do that, then your structure would look like this. And at this point, each oxygen now has 7 electrons around it, but we have used up our 12 total electrons, so we can't add any more. We can't just add another electron right here and say, okay, now it's happy. So instead, what we do is, and I'm going to erase that real quickly, we just bring those electrons closer and closer together, and so we just make it like that. And so now you have oxygen with a double bond, and you have 2 lone pairs of electrons around each oxygen. So the point is you have flexibility on where you move those electrons around. You want to keep them paired together if you can, but if you have any lone electrons, you can move them anywhere around in order for you to actually draw the bonds. So at this point, maybe stop, give it a shot, and then check your answers after you've tried it. So some of these were more challenging than others, and especially that second one. Another key thing to note, and hopefully you were kind of realizing that, is the atom that can form the most bonds is usually going to be in the middle, or mostly it's going to be the first one. So carbon is written first in the second one, it's written first in the third one, and so that's going to be that central atom. So that's going to also help you out. I tried in the second one to show you different colors so you can really see clearly kind of where those bonds forming, or which atoms those bonds are forming between, but generally that's how it's done. So this is like a puzzle. You could do it if you had unlimited time. You will get faster as you continue to practice it. Now we can also use these Lewis dot structures to show ionic compounds. And so here, instead of just putting the dots close to each other, we're going to draw an arrow showing where the electron is going. So in this first example, it's going from the magnesium to the oxygen. And it's really that positive charge of the oxygen is attracting magnesium's electrons. And so it does take energy, remember, ionization energy, to make that happen. So it's not like just electrons are flying all over the place. Oxygen is coming next to magnesium and stealing those 2 outer electrons, forming a positive charge, a positive 2 charge, and a negative 2 charge, and thus coming together to form NGO. And so here you can see the ions after they have that full outer shell. And, you can see that, chlorine is going to bond in a 1-to-1 ratio here. It's going to be a 2-to-1 ratio when it's bonded with oxygen. And so these could all kind of bond together in different ways. Polyatomic ions are just covalent compounds that had extra electrons or less electrons and thus have a charge. And so Here is the polyatomic ion for instance, for hydroxide, which is OH. And normally this couldn't happen, but it has an extra electron to make this happen. And so we usually use a bracket, and then we put the charge on the outside of the bracket, showing that this is the polyatomic ion. It's the covalent compound with an extra electron, and that's the only way it was able to happen. So this is NO2 and NH4+. And so just put a bracket around the polyatomic ion with its charge. So now we're getting into some more advanced topics, and this is called resonance structures. And so in this example where Cl2O, you can have more than one correct Lewis structure or kind of model of the atom. And when there's more than one option, you want to draw all three of them with arrows between, showing the different options. And in real life, these are called resonance, and in real life none of them exist. And then really what exists is the average between all three of them. So I'm going to use red, and I'll just pick the first one. It's not like there's going to be a double bond and two single bonds. Instead, it's really going to be more like one and a third bond, and one and a third bond, and one and a third bond. So in red, I kind of showed you what you're going to see really in real life, but you want to right now just kind of show the different options that could exist. When molecules have resonance structures or multiple different options, the result is more stronger, or it is more stable than any of the individual ones. So here's one of the options, and here's one of the options, and here's one of the options, and all three are potential options, but none of them would be as stable as this kind of overall average, where there's kind of one and a third bonds, or sorry, I guess more than that, maybe between one and two bonds. And so this is what really exists in real life, and it's definitely the most stable version. So resonance structures is kind of like the icing on the cake, if you understand that, but hopefully you're getting a better idea at drawing these Lewis dot diagrams and then combining them together to form molecules. Now, the only way that you'll get good at this is with practice. So now we have to have you practice and draw a bunch of them until you feel comfortable drawing these molecules.